Okay, good evening. It is July 21st, 2022, and today really was an uptrend day. I mean, we were ranging up until about 10:30 Eastern time, and then we just made these two. It looks like these are two measured legs up. This one is probably a little longer, and we kept moving higher. You can see in the uh, after hours, there was a brief sell off, and it looks like for today or tomorrow's price action. Looks like prices are continuing to sell off, but today was all uphill. Let's really quickly look at the daily chart. I can't get rid of this. Let's just shrink it. So I have my channel drawn differently than Matt. I've drawn mine off the lows, and originally, either way, you have a break. But originally, I have it drawn like this, and then I moved it down to these stems down here. And you can see we still get a break, but I think it's probably like this. So that's probably why mine looks different than Max's. I have mine drawn off the lows. It's hard to say where the highs are because this right here could be a break. If we move it down here, we could have a break followed by the overshoot um, and a move to a new low. So now it looks like two legs down, which would explain uh, Max chart being I think this was the first break of his or something. I don't know, but anyway, that's how I'm seeing it. And it could be up here. It could be just a larger channel. You can see prices respecting this midline, um, and this overshoot might lead to a break with a drawn like that. But these lows are definitely valid. You can see it was probably confirmed right here, but bounce, 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 bounce. Plenty of bounces off that. But anyway, back to the daily chart. I didn't see a whole lot of trades today. Maybe as I look through it again, we'll see. And really quickly, I just want to point out when we broke out to the low side, all I did was I drew a measured move of the overnight highs and lows midline to the lows. And then I took this down here, and you got a perfect measure move of that. So just something to keep your eye out for. Um, so I think 8 o'clock comes right about here. There was some news item that was not of high impact this morning, but I think this is probably what happened. It was about 8:30, and made about looks like two legs up. Um, so originally, we had our highs right here. So this I looked at this as a failed break higher. And so you get this lower high, and on the ES today, on the 2000 tick chart, it doesn't show up. But if you get a nice bearish signal bar right there, and in my opinion, that's a failed break above the overnight highs. I like that. Um, but right around 8 a.m., you get this, and I just mark that as green because you might look at that as a double test, very bearish signal bar, but it's not really anything. Not really a whole lot of anything. All right, so let's talk about this one here. When we make this high, you draw the overnight highs up there, and that makes the midline down here. So when we start selling off, you get a failure, but it's above the EMA. I kind of looked at this as a double top. So really, you get a first entry, failed second entry, doesn't quite touch that trend channel, so or the EMA. So I wasn't too crazy about that. But then when you get this, and these are a lot of bars stacked up, but I still, even though it's at the midline and all this stacking up, when we got this signal bar and there's a lower high and it closes lower than this one and this one, I like that in real time. So you might consider that. But we come down here, you get a break, and you don't get a setup in here. This is a second entry, but it just looks sideways. You can see that. Draw it. It's pretty clear. Looks like a failed break higher. Sells off. And we break below the overnight lows and just slingshot back. And okay, so I didn't mark this failure. I'd probably draw it like that. This looks like a failed second entry short, first entry, failed second entry short. And you might consider that because it looks like it's breaking back into this range, excuse me. But you got, that's like 3 dojis in a row and they're all inside this bar. So, and it's just, you don't really know what's happening yet. It's right after the opening. I'm not too crazy about that, but I'll give it a green because it is a failure. And then we're just going sideways again. You get a break, move to a new high. We come down, and this is a second. I'm gonna have to give this a green. This is after the break, we got a new high. You get a first entry, second entry. So we did get a new high, but this is one you might consider. I mean, it's off of the overnight lows level of support. I'm just drawing this in case it means anything. So yeah, it looks like we are in this channel. So there's reasons to like that second entry long off of the overnight lows, room back to the EMA to scalp out. And then you get a first entry, failed second entry. That's too congestive for me. All inside bars. I don't like that. Not off the trend line. And this is all too congestive too. This is a range up here. You get a sell off, lower high. Can't take that. Even though it looks like a breakout pullback. I don't think you can take that. There's just, price. Look at the EMA. Prices are on both sides. Or at least right here they were. Here they're above it, but that means you wouldn't want to take this. You don't know what's happening. And so we make a pretty steep leg down. Overshoot leads to a break. This looks pretty tempting right here. You get a first entry, second entry. Problem is these are all dojis, and we don't even make a new high here. So I don't think you can. I don't think you can take that, but it's a second entry, so you might consider it after this really nice leg down. And we do get a nice leg down after that, and we make a new low. And first entry, second entry, but it's still looking like a range. So I'm not too crazy about this. First entry, second entry. I'd probably be tempted by this one right here, though. But the problem is, it looks like it's, yeah, it looks like an overshoot. So with a lower high, I'd be pretty tempted by this. I like the looks of that 50-25 to, yeah, you got plenty of room to scalp out. And that's a double top. You get a first entry, failed second entry long here. I don't think you can take this one. If you're looking at it like that, you might consider this one. Man, I thought I analyzed this chart. Maybe I didn't. But you get this overshoot, lower high. You might take that. That's a double top, first entry, failed second entry. Especially after this very bullish bar, you might consider that. And it's off the trend line. We just had confirmation of the trend line right here. And we just made a new low, so there's reason to think maybe this thing's going lower. Just overall, it had the feel of a range day, though, and that's what it ended up being. So we come down here, we make a new low, and this looks like a really strong move down to a new low. So they probably trapped a bunch of shorts here. We have all this congestion. And I think I probably drew this channel off of the highs. And there's probably something off this. Yeah, that looks valid too. So if you insist on drawing it, I mean, look, the way you draw off the highs works too. But this works. Would it have gotten you anything? I'm not sure. Doesn't look like it because this is very just congestive. So we come up here. I meant to mark this trap. Either way, you had your trend channel drawn. I think this was a trap either way. So let's look at this first entry, second entry, extremely low risk, but it's an inside bar. This is a fourth doji in a row. If you went for 1.5975, that was a 4-tick failure. So it is a second entry, but it doesn't make a new low, and that's why we have our rules. So, and it is after a break of the channel, trend channel. So you got to be really careful. This is just sideways, and then we start this pink channel up. That's how I saw it. You can see we get confirmation right here. That's a first entry. The failure happens right there, so you can't take that. It's just in no man's land. And then we just bounce and go higher, and we get what I viewed as an overshoot of the pink channel. First entry, second entry, it's off the pink channel, but this looks like an overshoot to me. So expect a break. Overshoots typically lead to a break. Why do they typically lead to a break? It's just like walking on a tightrope. If you go too far in this direction, it's going to take you in this direction. And that's because people who got long in here, when it goes above, they're good traders are taking their profits because they saw the trend channel, they see the overshoot, and they're like, okay, I'm making a lot of money. Why don't I just take my profits? And that's all the people taking their profits. It takes it in the other direction. First entry failed, second entry. So this was a really good setup. First of all, it confirms this spike in channel, spike up in channel. And if you were watching it live, it was just a really good failure. You can see we're trying to test the overnight highs. We got to overshoot of this pink channel, so we might test that. Prices try and go lower once, twice, 3 times really. They finally go lower, and it fails. It closes above the EMA, so then it ticks lower, and you know that's a trap right there. Nice failure. We go higher. We form this yellow channel. You get a first entry, second entry. Signal bar is not great, but it's off that yellow channel. Another reason I wasn't crazy about this was because I was more convinced that we were working in this blue channel, or this transparent channel, I should say, rather than the green channel. So I wasn't convinced, especially we barely broke above the overnight highs. So I wasn't willing to take that. But if you did, it would have worked. And we come up here and you get a first entry, second entry. And again, I just wasn't. I mean, we have this green channel confirmed. So let's see. It probably would have gotten you at least a point. 88.75. Yeah, so that gets you 6 ticks. So maybe I should mark it. It also just looks like one leg down. That's why I'm not too crazy about it. And then we're just going sideways. This is just 2 sideways going back and forth on both sides of the EMA. I don't think you want to go and take anything in here. We have a second entry short right here, but that we don't have that trend channel drawn yet. So, ooh, this is a failure right here. I think you want to take that. I think you want to take that. So we get this potential trend channel, make a lower high off it. It comes down, it goes below the EMA, and then it tries to go higher a second time for a second entry, and it fails. And I think that's a good move. But then that you get a double test down here. And I guess people just decided that that was no more selling from there. I mean, I think a lot of people are taking into consideration the context of the daily chart too. We're in a bullish move right now. So I think that's probably what happened. So anyway, we get a break of this. I don't like any of this after here. There's just nothing here because it's far from the EMA. And then the rest of it is just choppy. So none of this suits my preferences. Looks like a failure right here, but it's far from the EMA. And I looked at this as a spike in channel, and there's no second entries in here. This is super congested. This looks like a range. This is first entry. I mean, technically this is like a failure, but because you got a new low, first entry, failed second entry. So you might consider that. But you're going into the highs for the day. That would make a double test right there. So, but that's clearly a trend channel working up. So that's what I saw for the day. I hope everyone had a great day, and I will be back tomorrow.